gentlemen, electric cars, they're totally gay. It's true. I don't mean that they're homosexual gay, but I do mean your parents are the chaperone at the dance gay, right? You tuck it in and wear it real high gay. I don't want to disrespect anybody because I'm not about that, but I think we're understanding what we're trying to talk about here, right? I mean, honestly, the Nissan Spit, really? It screams this. Oh, here we go. The Hyundai Pomegranate, right? The Chevy Fingerprint. Now, look at this. The 1966 Ford GT350. Want to roll up in that one, Hoss? The 1965 Pontiac GTO. Completely awesome. The 1970 Hemi Cuda took more virginities than Francis Albert Sinatra. What are we suggesting here? We're talking about taking the benefits of electric transportation, but combine them with the rock and rollness and the sexiness that the Dodge current muscle car models have. Nicholas?
We believe we can produce the technology to incorporate an electronic motor in your current models. But with the aggressive sound character, the exhilarating vibration character, the complete visceral experience that we've all grown to know and love in the Dodge Challenger and Charger lines.
Guys, we love our current electric models. That said, we also agree there's a market for what you're pitching. But if you're asking Dodge to invest in your pursuit of this concept, what do you have that we don't?
Nick Brennan.
Are you ready?
Yeah, sorry, I'm ready. Hey, does this suit make me look fat?
No. Your face does. Okay, let's check you out.
It's a clip, huh?
Are you sure? All right, now, it's sale time, so remember, we don't take no...
No shit from anyone.
No.
We don't take no prisoners.
We don't take no for an answer.
Oh, yeah. We don't take no for an answer.
Hello?
Hi, Mr. Davis. This is Ron calling you from the Daily News. How you doing this morning?
It's Davis, and I'm not interested.
Okay, I'm sorry to have bothered you. Have a nice day.
Wait a minute. Wait, that's your pitch? You consider that a sales call?
Well,
You know, I get a call from you guys every Saturday, and it's always the same half-assed attempt. If you guys want to close me, you should sell me.
all right.
All right, start again.
Okay. Hi. This is Ron from the Daily News. How you doing this morning?
Shitty, what do you want?
It's not what I want, sir. It's what you want.
Ron, now we're talking. All right, what are you selling me?
I'm offering you a subscription to the Daily News at a substantially reduced price. We're trying to reach out to people that have never had home delivery before.
Right, so basically you're saying that everybody else who already has a subscription is getting on this one?
Yeah, I guess so.
All right, well, I can handle that. So tell me, why should I buy your paper? I mean, you know, why shouldn't I get the Times or the Voice, you know?
Well, the Village Voice is free, sir, so if you want it, you should certainly pick it up. But the Daily News offers you something no other paper can, a real taste of New York. We have the best features, more photographs than any other daily in New York, and we have the most reliable delivery in the city. Now, what do you think?
You know what I think, Ron? I think that was a sales call. Good job, buddy.
So you're going to buy a subscription?
No, I already get the Times.
Hey, what's your name?
Helen.
That's nice. You look like a Helen. Helen, we're both in sales. Let me tell you why I suck as a salesman. Let's say I go into some guy's office. Let's say he's even remotely interested in buying something. Well, then I get all excited. I'm like, Jojo, the idiot circus boy with a pretty new pet. The pet is my possible sale. Oh, my pretty little pet. I love you. So I stroke it, I pet it, I buy it. Yeah, I love it. I love my little naughty pet. You're naughty. And then I take my naughty pet and I go. Oh! I killed it! I killed my sale! That's when I blow it.
Drive
driving along the road with your family, and you're driving along, la la la, and then all of a sudden there's a truck tire in the middle of the road, and you hit the brakes. Whoa, that was close. Now let's see what happens when you're driving with the other guy's brake pads. You're driving along, and all of a sudden the kids are yelling from the back seat, I gotta go to the bathroom, Daddy. Not now, damn it. Truck tire. I can't stop. Help! There's a cliff. And your family's screaming, oh my God, we're burning alive. No, I can't feel my legs. Here comes a meat wagon. Woo, woo, woo. And the medic comes out and says, oh my God. New guy's in the corner puking his guts out. All because you want to save a couple extra pennies. And to me, it doesn't get out. Now. Do you validate?
Anyway, good morning. It was hard to find ones that were lead-based, but I just in case you weren't aware, Boiler Room was one of them. I'm not sure which one that one with electric cars is, but the third one is Tommy Boy. If you haven't watched that movie, it's hilarious. And some videos from our sponsors.
Hi, this is Gail Rubenstein, the founder and CEO of Retail Resilient. Car dealers all over the country love working with us, and let me tell you why. We have two product solutions that they absolutely love using. The first product solution is a Facebook and Instagram school where we build out a curriculum for salespeople and managers. We teach them how to create new car offers, used car offers, and get pre-approved offers. We also have a campaign management program where we generate leads for them, and then they do what they do best, they sell cars. So we train their sales staff on how to handle social media leads. Our car dealers typically say to us, I had the highest grossing month in the history of my business. I'm up double in my volume year over year. We even had a client the other day that told me that he was absolutely blessed because he loved our customer service. Everyone at Retail Resilient works remotely from home. I hire only car people from all over the country, so I hire all A players. They're really good at what they do, and we absolutely love helping car dealers. So give us a try, give us a shout. You know, any opportunity, we would love to see if we're a fit to work with you.
Thanks, Gail. A few books. Well, it was a little bit hard to find just 3 books, so I found a few. Pitch Anything by Oren Klaff. If you haven't read his new book, Flip the Script, really good book. Coaching Salespeople and the Sales Champions with Keith Rosen. Daniel Pink, To Sell is Human, The Ultimate Sales Machine, and Influence. If you're not familiar with Robert Pelladini, really interesting books if you're interested in the psychology of why people buy and how to influence people. And here's Barry.
Man, I got my eyes closed.
Hi, this is Barry Jordan from WhiteGlovePerformanceGroup.com. I'd like to take a few moments of your time to share how we can make you more profitable. Dealerships all over North America are using our cloud-based power dialing platform, Touchpoint, to manage their outbound sales-generating phone calls. With Touchpoint, your agents can make up to 50 calls an hour. Leave a voicemail, send an email with a link to a video or to your website, all with a click of the mouse. We specialize in empowering your teams to make the calls that make the sales. How can Touchpoint help you increase profit? Check us out, WhiteGlovePerformanceGroup.com.
Thanks, Barry. A few movies. Obviously, Catch Me If You Can, Mad Men, if you're interested in pitching. And then one that I wasn't familiar with, which I haven't watched yet, but I hear is good, is Promised Land. Also, if you're Canadian, there's a really interesting movie with Christopher Walken about fighting Monsanto I highly recommend. It's pretty interesting in Saskatchewan. And last but not least, Mr. Latka.
The road to a sale has never been easier. Introducing the 2-day sales process workshop. Whether it's giving your new employees a head start or re-energizing your sales team, everyone can benefit from this relational approach to sales. Attendees will learn to create an outstanding buying experience by aligning the sales process with the buying process and helping customers through the phases of selection, mental ownership, and commitment. With preset performance standards and accountability criteria, we teach the critical skills and behaviors necessary for long-term success. like making unforgettable first impressions to building lasting relationships that result in repeat and referral business. Through lectures, group discussions, PowerPoint presentations, and helpful Q&A sessions, everyone walks away with the knowledge and tools they need to succeed. Included are detailed workbooks with daily routines and framed certificates of accomplishment. Those we've trained have reported closing ratios up to 53.9% and sales volumes up to 235 units per year. Are you ready to maximize your sales team's potential with our 2-day sales process workshop? Contact Automotive Business Solutions today.
Thanks, John. Jeff, go ahead with the disclaimer.
Good morning, everybody. Before we start in the show, we always like to talk about our disclaimer. The views and opinions, as you see in this long wording, are expressed to those of our guests and not necessarily of us, although we don't argue that maybe sometimes you might agree with them as well. But please review that so you know that don't hold us accountable if somebody says something particularly interesting. And today our show is the Sell More Friggin' Lead show. Being politically correct, of course, we use frigging instead of something else. And we have some very, very dynamic people joining us today who happen to be all specialists and professionals in automotive leads. The first gentleman to join us, who's not necessarily the best, but just ask him, you know he is, Paul Lahal, or Lehal, I'm not sure, Paul, who's the Chief Technology Officer at Connect AI in that sprawling metropolis of Burnaby, BC. Paul, if you could take a moment and introduce yourself to everybody.
Sure. Hello, guys. I'm CTO of Connect AI. We've been working on building a technology. From 3 years, it's already live at about more than 80 dealerships right now. We engage leads with the AI SMS based, and our system then generate phone calls with an intent and even set up an appointment automatically. So basically, it's all AI helping your BDC team of how they can handle and nurture leads really well.
Great, thank you. Thank you so much for joining us. Next, we have Troy Glenn, who's the Director of Sales Western Canada from that very tiny little company, CDK Global, here in Vancouver. Troy, if you could introduce yourself to everybody.
Hey, everybody. Yeah, my name is Troy Glenn. I am the Director of Sales for CDK. I've been with the company for the better part of 7 years, and the reason why I'm going to say this next part is because I'm going to talk about it ad nauseum later. I spent 22 years in the hospitality business before I came to automotive. And yeah, just great to be here.
Great, thank you. That's very interesting. You mentioned the hospitality business, because I don't know how many seminars I went to. I think it was Delta Hotels created a whole, almost a Disneyland thing about how to take care of customers in the car industry. And some places it worked, some places it didn't. Next, we have John Arnett, who's the Chief Revenue Officer, very important position, at Optimi AI, today I can't speak, in Toronto, which is really a sprawling metropolis. John, if you could introduce yourself, say hi to everybody.
Hey, thanks for having me. So yeah, at Optimi, I'm just kind of in charge of the sales and marketing aspect of things. What we do is provide software that really gives dealerships sort of a one-to-one relationship to a customer through video first, text second. But basically, that's what we do. Glad to be here. Thanks.
Thank you. And we have Barry Jordan, who you just saw doing his very good video, and Ian promised Barry that he would edit out your eyes closed thing, but we'll do that next time. Who's Vice President of Sales in White Glove Performance Group in Calgary. Barry, say hello to everybody.
Hey, good morning, everybody. Yeah, as Jeff mentioned, Barry Jordan. I've been in the car business for almost 30 years, and a big chunk of that was as a GM, and now as the VP of sales for Touchpoint, which is a marketing platform, dialing platform that we use to maintain databases and reach out to people and prospective buyers. Happy to be here. This is a great show for those that don't tune in very often. Yeah, so thanks for having us, guys.
Excellent, thank you. Ian, can you start off the questions, please?
Yeah, I'm sure everybody, thanks very much, everybody. I'm sure everybody's getting a little tired of LinkedIn polls. But from a LinkedIn poll perspective, I did put one together just to see in terms of lead handling what was going on there in terms of what people thought. And basically, the results showed overwhelmingly the staff were not trained properly in handling leads. Do you agree with that, Bear?
You know, I would say the first thing about a lead is you need to know you have a lead. And I know that's simplistic, but there's a lot of processes. What am I going to say? There's a lot of dealerships out there that don't have processes in place, that have a plan, and it's a wing and a prayer, and they hope for it, and they throw a couple of phone calls or a couple of emails out, and they're hoping that that closes. If it doesn't close, they move on way too quickly because there's more leads coming in. And you know, we've alluded to this in the past, you and I, Ian, where there's dealerships out there that are happy with a 10% close, and that should never be acceptable. It just shouldn't. And so, you know, as a dealership, as any business that's out there marketing to people, they need to know they know they have a lead, and they need to know what they're going to do with that lead when it comes in.
So it's really about having a cadence and working it every time.
Really,
Do you think that's part of it with the disappointing 10%?
Right.
Fantastic. Paul, what do you think?
Yeah, I concur. They gotta know what lead is, and they need to have a process in place as soon as they get the lead. And my personal favorite is automation, because human resource is already dealerships already lag in human resources. They lag in BDC, they lag in number of salespeople they should have. Everyone is really busy, and leads are just falling through the crack. CRMs are doing an okay job. Yes, there is a first text or first email that goes out the moment lead is in, but after that, there is no follow-up, or no one's reaching out to the leads in that 10-minute window. So I'm thinking they need to have a process, they need to have an automation in place that just actually help their sales team or their BDC.
Fantastic. John.
Which John, me?
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. So I think typically the issue is that everyone wants to take every lead as if it's the same and treat it the same way. But you know, you've got these leads coming in that are walk-ins, you've got video chat, you've got web chat, you've got all this other stuff, and it's, you know, it seems like everybody's treating them all the same way, which I think is a big mistake. Typically what I've seen is you get, you know, it doesn't matter what channel you come in from, but somebody says, cool, let's get you to come into the store. And that's all they want to do is say, come into the store, or let me phone you, whatever it is. I bought 2 cars during COVID, and one was over video and one was over SMS, 100%. And what was annoying though is in both cases, I had to fight the dealer to be like, no, I want to stay on video and do this over video. And like literally they kept saying, well, you know, why don't you just come in? And I'm like, no, I just want to buy the car in the video. Just do what I want, you know? So anyway, I think that's an interesting thing, is meet the customer where they want to be.
Sounds like what I was taught when I first started to sell cars. Get them in, get them in.
Troy?
Yeah, you know, I agree with everybody as far as the process piece is concerned. And really, I think what it boils down to, in my opinion, is, you know, it's trust. And a lot of dealers don't trust their salespeople to carry the whole process through. And they'll train them once, they'll hire trainers, they'll buy a software, they'll buy our consulting, and then that's it. The sales manager then, as a sales manager, you'd think presumably would be continually training and developing their staff and coaching them and role playing them and doing all that stuff, and they're not. The dealers don't trust the sales reps to take basic financial information from the customer, or to quote basic pricing. And sales managers are spending all their time penciling deals. I think sales managers need to spend more time training the people and empower those people to do the other stuff. And I think the more training and role playing and live experiences will help in the long run. But again, the process piece and the software and everything else that we're all talking about is a critical first step. But the ROI, the dealers aren't seeing it past the first couple of months because they're not getting the follow-up training and the consistency of it.
Yeah,
fantastic.
One of our there's a few things here in the Auto Hub show that we repeat over and over and over again, and one of those things that we repeat is the 90% of leads get away. So in other words, that dealers only respond to about 10% of their online leads. So is there a simple recommendation that you can do to dealers so they can legitimately capitalize on their leads other than follow up on your leads? So Troy, seeing as how you were the last to speak, I'll ask you to be the first to direct to answer this.
Sure. Actually, Ian and I were having a conversation last week where we were talking about the way that some dealers follow up with you when you buy a car or present a lead, and others don't. And I've done enough mystery shopping in my day that I've seen almost every mystery shop that I've done with my real contact information has never called me back, even if they don't know I'm a mystery shopper. However, there's one minivan I bought in 2013 on Vancouver Island, 200 kilometers away from me, that calls me every 3 months to this day. And I've not told them to stop calling me because I want to see how long this goes. And it's been 5.5 years. So I do think that, what, Jeff, not to diminish that, I really do think you need to call until the person says to stop calling politely. You don't have to be belligerent or difficult, but my reps have one job, and ask for the business. And if you can't ask for the business, sometimes the answer is no when you ask for the business. But if you can't ask for the business, then I don't know what you're doing there in sales. It's really the number one job.
Terrific. It's very true that how the heck can you do more business if you don't handle what you got now? I used to have a VP of ops for the dealer group I was with that said, totally unrelated to leads, but said if you want to double your traffic, count your traffic. In this particular case, you want to double your lead response, count the leads. Paul, could you please just respond to this question about the 10% unsolution?
Again, I personally think it all comes to letting the leads fall through the crack, right? And I used to run lots of marketing campaigns, and I used to get complaints saying, hey, the leads are not good. And then we started evaluating what's wrong with the leads. And we realized that not a lot of leads are actually just being called at all. Dealerships actually do spend a lot of money and resources on getting leads, acquiring leads, generating more and more leads, but they just don't reach out to the leads on time, or they just let lots of leads fall through crack. And I personally think that's the reason of this 10%. And follow-up, again, is the key. Follow-up have to be protocoled, follow-up have to be mandated, and there got to be a logic behind follow-up. Because there is a fine line between follow-up and annoying someone. So again, I'm just an automation guy. All of this I personally think can be automated, and then can be accentuated by helping your sales team, having them given a proper protocol for all of this stuff.
Yeah. So do you find that in automation you get a 100% lead response?
No. Lead response is very typical. Lead response is anywhere from 50 to 53%. But then that helps salespeople then understand that let's just not worry about the rest of the 46% or 47%, and let's just put the stress and emphasis on people who are actually engaging. And the rest of the 47% should be on that follow-up hopper, so that they're just being followed up, again, based on the logics that dealership wanted, how to follow up, or on their own sales acumen.
It's very funny. You mentioned the comment about quality leads, and reminds me again of the days way back when you relied on lot traffic, and the salesperson would stand in the showroom and look at the people out in the lot and go, yeah, they're not buyers, they're not buyers, they're not buyers. They're a buyer. Same thing with their leads.
Exactly.
Barry, what's your thoughts on this?
Actually, Jeff, I was just thinking of that same analogy where I think if you went to a car dealership and you stood at the front door and you asked everybody walking in that door, "Are you here to buy a car today? Here to buy a car today?" You'd probably get the same closing ratio as these lead generations get at the 10%. But the sale is made through relationship, through bonding, through finding similarities in what you do in the sales process. And that's what happens in the showroom, on the test drive, and all these different steps that we have where we actually form a relationship with the client. And I think that's a big part of what's missing in the internet process is when a lead comes in, they're really just saying, "Do you want to buy a car?" And yes or no. And if it's no, they move on. There is no process. There is no video presentation. There is no finding similarities and common ground and all the things that we do in sales. But say hi, Paul. Tell them to come on the show, man. Anyway,
let them tell us about automation.
But I just think so much of it is just we asked once, they said no, we ran away, and we let the 90% die. And I just don't think there's enough process going on that says, hey, what does this guy really want? And back to John's comment about trying to buy a car, and he just wants to do it through SMS. He just wants to do it through video. Well, just let the man do it that way. Like, this is not complicated.
Yeah, that reminds me, again, we go back to the old days that customer would say to you, what can you give me for my car? They'd say, no, what do you want? No, what can you give me? No, what do you want? And John Arnett, you mentioned that earlier, that you just said, look, I don't want to come in. And the salesperson responded to the old thing, no, come in, because that way I can close you now. But if you're online and you're on the phone or something, you can't. You can go to talk to somebody else. But so now, Mr. Arnett, can you just, and of course, just because we have two Johns on here on my screen, you're right beside each other. What do you think about this only responding to 10% of their leads?
Well, I think it's one of those things too, where they get all these digital leads and they don't think they're real. They think, oh, digital lead's not the same as a walk-in. But I think that is really what has to change, because again, I bought 2 cars in the last year completely digitally, and I'm not probably the only one in the world that's doing this. So, one of the key things though is responding quickly. And I found that to be a big problem also. There was one of the vehicles I was buying for my wife. I went to 3 different dealerships. I literally got an email to the one, email to the second, and then a chat to the third. The first 2 never even responded to me. And I'm like, okay, I have money, I want to spend it, and no, so it's getting back to people quickly through the method they want. So I'm going to keep harping on that.
Well, you mentioned about the chat too, and that chat was probably someone from the chat services company responding to you versus the salesperson.
That's right. So that added a huge delay as well, where I would have loved to just chat with a salesperson in 30 seconds or so. Instead, I chatted with somebody who is in, I don't know, Dominican Republic, and talked to them for 5 minutes, and then hopefully got the phone call back, which did happen about 45 minutes later. So.
And dealers are complaining about the growth of Carvana in the States, and I don't hear too much here about our versions in Canada, but the bottom line is certainly that we got to respond. There's a couple of questions and comments here online before we move on to Ian. Thank you, John. Jeff Stern says, call till they buy or die. Gotta love that. And he mentioned to Barry, you're right, we can't just ask wanna buy. We build rapport, common ground, find out the issues to cure. With a lead, we need to get into that as much as possible. But some of us drank too much Kool-Aid and the price up front. That's great comments. And also, John, this is why BDC is important. Salespeople think qualifying means measuring the difficulty of the customer to decide how much effort to give them. And of course, he's VP of Sales at CarChat24. Check them out. Ian, please go on to the next one. Ian? You're muted.
There's an opinion from many sources that due to COVID and now the chip shortage, and no matter what a dealer does, they will sell almost every vehicle they have, with the exception of XYZ model. No matter how good or bad their processes are. Is that true in your opinion, Troy?
to a certain extent, I mean, every vehicle is going to sell at some point. But the reality is, all things like COVID and the pandemic and the chip shortage and all these things are temporary, and they will end. And people will remember how they were treated. So I know I tell stories every day for my job, and I tell stories about my horrible car experiences. And I will never buy a car from a company that gave me a horrible experience. And if they treated me like just a number, or hell, I'm going to sell this to the next guy coming along, when they are on bended knee doing their CRM follow-up because I was a walk-in at one point, I'm never going to take their call. So, you know, I think, yeah, in the short term, narrow-minded thinking, there's going to be a lot of people capitalizing on this. But ultimately, I really do think that people will remember in the long run, and it's not a good long-term strategy. You got to treat everyone well.
Thanks, Troy. Paul?
I really don't. There is a shortage of vehicles right now. I understand, but I really do not understand the question. Like, what's the question actually?
Well, the question is basically, I'm going to sell the vehicle anyway, so why should I care about my customer experience? Like, someone's going to buy it. There isn't any. I got the cars. They're going to come to me. It's kind of like the realtor that has all the listings. I'm going to make money anyway. You know, why should I care about this?
Oh yeah, that's very sales driven question, which I do not have an answer to. All I know is that yes, some people do think that way, and I think the ones who are performing better than others are the ones who do not think that way. But really, that's not my domain to answer. I've never done sales.
All right, thanks, Paul. John?
Yeah, so for me, I just don't quite buy it. I literally was expecting this question, and I went on yesterday and just picked up a random dealership, and they had 233 cars on the lot. So, you know what? If they sell all those without doing any work, great. But I don't think that's true. I think that, you know, you need to still put in the effort to actually sell those cars, all those units. And with better customer service and doing everything better, you can still sell them faster. And for the organization, that's going to be better ultimately, right? We know we own a huge floor plan and all that stuff. So again, when you see dealers that have 200 plus cars on the lot, I don't buy a shortage being a thing.
Thanks for that. Barry?
You know, it's interesting. I think it's an opportunity for a lot of dealerships that potentially fell into the, you know, the discounting swirl, I'm going to call it, the race to the bottom. You know, this is an opportunity now where they can actually hold some profit, put in some proper procedures, get their team accustomed to actually making gross and actually doing things properly. And when this inventory settles out, when everything kind of goes back to what we want to perceive as relatively normal, then they got processes in place, and they're able to pitch the value proposition, and they're able to talk to the John on video, and they're able to talk to Paul in person, and they're able to talk to Janice on SMS. They're able to do whatever the customer wants them to do, still sell a car, makes a profit, give them amazing customer service, do everything that the customer is expecting and experiencing. And yeah, because you're right. Right now, everybody's lining up saying, "Hey, I want to buy, I want to buy, I want to buy." But that's going to end. We all know it's going to end. And what the dealership has done in these times will determine what their future is, I think.
Janice had a comment there. Maybe, Janice, you wanted to share some of what your learnings are? I mean, you talk to customers every day. Can't hear you, Janice. Still can't hear. Got you, Janice?
It looked funny.
Anyway. Oh, there you go. Oh, no. It's okay,
beauties
Janice.
of technology.
Go ahead, Jeff.
It was very interesting how the comment is from everybody that that it's not. And Janice said it's not a good long game about this opinion that we had about they're going to sell every new car, so why put the effort into it? And Paul, just so you know, is processes, and of course your business is all process. So a lot of people are cutting process because they just can sell the cars. But Paul, I'm going to ask you the question. Please fill in this blank. The one thing dealers can do to close more friggin' leads is
a process. Have a process in place.
Okay. Anything else? Can you expand on that a little bit?
Because human being is biased. Human being is busy. We have busy days, good days, bad days. So, but lead on the other end doesn't know what's happening on this end. Leads have to be treated in a way, in a process, in a way that they should have been treated. There got to be a communication that's going out. There got to be a report that needs to be built in. There have to be a follow-up with those leads. And then finally a phone call. And then I'm a big believer in selling online. I don't think they need to just bringing them to the dealership is the way to sell cars. So if there is a good process, if there is a great BDC in place, if they can build communication via SMS or any kind of online portal, that's what it takes to close the leads these days.
Yeah, well, you know what's funny? There was. It also reminds me. Today's my day to wax nostalgic. But salespeople used to ask customers this question: "Is what do I have to do to earn your business today?" And in the old days, I think that kind of meant how much can I manipulate you to put a deal together now? Whereas online, you need to earn their business. That's what I would take from you. You've got to do business their way. Yet, of course, the way so many salespeople were trained, and I see John Latka smiling there, is those people were trained in a way not to do what the customer wants, to convince the customer to do it the way I want. But that isn't working anymore, is it?
Exactly.
Great, thank you so much, John Arnett. You address this thing. What, in your opinion, what's the one thing dealers can do to close more friggin' leads?
Yeah, so I'm going to be pretty selfish here in that, my company does video chat first. Just have video chat. Like, why not? It's so simple. And it doesn't have to be mine. It can be just Skype or Zoom or whoever. It doesn't matter. Just make that easy that somebody who doesn't want to come into your dealership right now can still buy a car. And like, I've been vaccinated. I had that whole thing, but I still have no interest in walking into a dealership today. So that's it for me.
Well, Janice had a thought, Jeff, just so you know, your mic's working now.
Hi, Janice.
Testing, is it working?
We hear you.
Yeah, I love the human element in it. Like, not just a process. I love the video chat too. Just the human element, period. With the process, somebody babysitting it. What I'm seeing lately, and you say I talk to customers all the time, and I look in CRMs, I'm seeing some outdated material where we're still sending out the same thing that was set up, the process was set up, and no one's managing it. And I see dealers sending out names of staff that isn't there, things that aren't appropriate. It's fine to put in processes, but a human still needs to watch them. So just thinking about automated emails, automated texting, we just have to keep our eye on that as well. Once it's set up, it's not just forget it. I think we need to look at it. And I've seen a lot of dealers make that mistake just in these COVID times of sending out information that isn't updated on emails, on even when dealers are changing names, I still see the old name a year later. It's coming up on call display. It's coming up there's still pieces missing. But the human element, for sure. I mean, how dare anybody, just because we got the cars, you're going to buy it anyway. I mean, what a terrible attitude. Long term, that'll definitely bite you, because people have long memories. They remember. We hear stories people tell us from something that happened to them years ago. So, customer service is a strategy, period. Just looking after your customers is a long-term strategy, and spending some extra money on making sure people are taken care of instead of always chasing more leads. You know, we're always chasing that lead instead of taking care of the house and getting more leads. I mean, have we looked after the leads we already have? And
Well,
are
this
we
is
taking
def-
care of the people that are already in the CRM that are waiting instead of chasing more?
Yeah, well, this is definitely one of the purposes of this show. Thank you for that input, Janice. Because again, we find that people, I think Paul mentioned this, that where dealers are spending a fortune. They're buying more platforms. They're buying more leads. They're spending all this money on leads, and then their salespeople are sitting there, if it's the correct salesperson that was ever supposedly followed up in the customer, and saying, "Oh yeah, they're not gonna buy because they're from up north, and people up north only buy pickup trucks or something like that." Jeff made a comment. Sorry, was somebody saying something there? No. Jeff Stern made a comment. I'll only read part of it online, but he said, "Video chat is office. We came out with this 8 years ago, and he says, until the last year, it only really been able to work well with it. Now it helps in a lot of ways, and the only caveat this means the dealer's chatting. The dealer is chatting, which does scare me. Is how they're doing it. And it's very true, Janice. You made that comment that, they're sending out autoresponders. We have people online that are from automated businesses, and it's only as good as the dealer making sure that Jane responding to it is actually still at the dealership. And I experienced it firsthand where the marketing department wasn't in the loop with the HR department, and didn't know who was there or whatever. And like Troy said earlier too, the sales manager doesn't even know. First of all, they don't have the faith in their salespeople to respond, but they don't even know what they're doing. But Barry, if you could address this one more thing they can do to close more leads.
Well, I think I'm gonna put the word care in there. That's really all they need to do is care, because if Paul wants to buy a car all on video, and John wants to do SMS, and Janice wants to come in and form a relationship, and I'm just picking names off the thing here, I don't know anyone, but Surinder wants to just have a video sent to him. We need to just do whatever the client wants to do to buy a car. This isn't rocket science. And if I treat John the way I treat Janice, but that's not how John wants to be treated, I'm not going to sell him a car. It doesn't matter whether it's an online lead or somebody walked into the showroom. It's exactly the same. And so if they don't understand that and they don't get it, then they're just not going to get beyond that maybe 10, 11%, because that's just what's fallen off the top of the bucket for them. Like, they're not actually selling cars. They're appealing to 10% of the population, which is a scary number. And if you had any other salesperson working your floor that had a 10% closing ratio, you'd have a conversation with them in 30 days and they'd be gone in 90. But for some reason, it's okay for an entire department to be that way. And I find it mystifying, to be honest with you.
Well, it's funny that you mentioned the 10% closing ratio on the floor. Is the only way you knew they actually had a 10% closing ratio genuinely is if you actually watch them. And how many sales managers actually know how many leads are being answered by whom, or how many just sit there and look at their CRM and say, "Oh, look, Fred's got 3 people and he closed 2 of them."
Right.
Yeah, very true. Troy, your opinion on this?
It's funny. Barry stole my thunder. The only thing I'd written down in that blank was care. I mean, again, I worked in the hospitality business for 22 years. And when you sell hotel rooms, you're not actually selling something tangible. Like, if you go buy a car, but you have a miserable experience, you still have a car. You go buy a giant TV, you still have a giant TV. You might tell the story about how bad your experience was, and you may never go back to that store or dealership, but you still have the thing. When you stay a night in a hotel and you have a bad room or a bad experience, or you miss your wake-up call and it costs you something, or you ruin somebody's wedding night because it's the wrong room, or the fire alarm goes off at 2 a.m, you're not selling anything that's got a a tangible piece that mitigates the buyer's remorse. So I think caring trumps almost everything. Janice said it herself. I mean, it's the human element. The chats and the automated stuff is huge because it keeps people in the funnel. It keeps people engaged. And if I have a question and I get a 30-second response or even a 5-minute response, at least I know there's an engagement there. But once you get that person on the hook, you have to care. And then regarding back to the long game, it's not just about selling cars today. That customer is going to be coming in for service, hopefully. And there's a whole new sales process that goes in, and the person has a garbage experience buying the car. They're probably going to translate that to thinking they're going to get the same experience in service. And all of that money is going to flush out the window, even if you did sell them a car, but they had a bad time. So I really do think that the sales process has to include care. It has to have a great handoff to service, and the service process and the service advisors who are also a sales job have to care. And I think all of the tools and the processes and the CRM that are in place are critical. But if you don't have the right humans in there and you don't train them on how to give a crap, then it's all for nothing.
You know, it's very interesting because, you know, both you and Barry mentioned care, and everybody's following the same idea. And it's shocking in the fact that 90% of leads are in essence ignored. You will ask every salesperson, every dealer, every sales manager, even every service advisor, how they think of their customers, and they say they care about their customers. Yet you have people sending out leads that finally get a response, and the customer says, "Which dealer is this? Is this the Toyota guy? No, is this the Dodge guy? You're Hyundai. I don't remember sending out a Hyundai lead, but tell me what?" Because they're surprised. Am I wrong? Anybody want to answer that?
No, you're absolutely right, Jeff. And you know, what's interesting is, you know, I think Janice had mentioned the fact that, you know, she's exposed to situations where they are responding from people who don't even work there anymore and all kinds of things. And I think too often the decision makers are looking for fast solutions where they're looking for AI to fix the problem. They're looking for some kind of mass email to fix the problem, or some kind of quick texting to fix it, where really they haven't even spent the time to clean up their database to know who they're talking to. And I had a conversation a bit ago with somebody, and we were talking about AI, and just sure, it's a fantastic, lovely idea, but when you're dealing with absolute garbage databases, it doesn't matter what technology you thread in there if you haven't spent the time to actually care about your customer. And you know, how does Paul wish to be greeted? Well, maybe Paul wishes to be called Paul. Maybe he has a nickname he wishes to be called. Well, why don't we have that in there? Why don't we know that? Because we don't care. And so if we just keep calling him Paul and he doesn't want to be called Paul, well, we're just going to offend him. And so I think a lot of times what happens is we look for technology to fix our deficiencies, and we haven't actually spent the time to even care about who we're talking about yet.
So in other words, you think that Paul doesn't like to be called Buddy?
He might. That might be his best. It might be his best nickname, but we don't know. We don't know, right?
No, that's for darn sure. Ian, any comments? You're muted.
It was interesting. I did a call shop for a dealer client of ours in the Calgary market, and all of the dealers in that market, it was one brand, used the same automated response software. So essentially, you send out 5 emails. There's 5 competitive dealers, and all 5 dealers basically sent out the same response within about anywhere between 5 and maybe as much as 10 minutes. And then of the 5 dealers, a couple of them had more than one email, but the emphasis was on a couple of them. The vast majority, that was their only communication. It was one email, hoping that was going to magically, connect the customer. But what amazed me was that none of the dealers were really standing apart from everybody else. It was like basically the same canned email that I'd seen when I ran an internet department before I started running the department 15, 20 years ago. It was like, "Oh, hello, Bob. Thanks very much for the inquiry. Call us. You can come visit us. Here's a bunch about our dealership." That doesn't engage people, because what they're looking for is a person to help them. And more importantly, a different experience, because what you see today is the average customer visits 1.2 dealerships. Why is it 1.2? Well, the first one didn't sell the car. That's why there's the 0.2. What they're basically doing is probably researching anywhere from 5 to 20 dealerships online first, hitting their website, hoping it works out, and the ones that it works out that actually care or communicate in the way the customer wants to communicate actually get it done. And the other ones, they're just not even in the game. And the thing that was amazing to me was just the fact that there hadn't been any change. Like that during a pandemic, that's the time to dial in and look at your process. They're just using the software, and the software doesn't magically answer the problem or solve it.
That's such an awesome point. And like during the pandemic, we've seen now 600% increase in average citizens using video chat online. And yet, like, what dealerships are using it? It's probably 10% of them, if that. And again, why? Like, not everybody's ready to do this. My dad, who's 71 years old, he video chats me. Guess what? Like, let's sell a car that way. Come on. Simple.
Yeah.
But also, I mean, there's an ad for, I think it's for, I'm not sure what it's for, but it's a gentleman talking to his dad, and his dad's probably 70. And the dad's holding the phone up to his ear. He's like, Dad, do you hold a mirror that way? So at the end of the day, it's the right tool for the right thing, but more importantly, what's the right process? I mean, ask some questions, whether it be automated during chat or using AI, age of the customer, how do they prefer it? Customize the experience to that customer, in my opinion.
And I think, no, go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, it's funny because there's a perfect storm happening where, with all the online searching, all the online information, whether you're buying a barbecue, a hot tub, or a car, or a hotel room, back to Troy's comment, you can pretty much find out almost 100% about what you're going to purchase or what that is going to be like once you own it. Within a percentage point or two, what you can't figure out is what the experience is going to be when somebody says hello. And that's the one thing that we have 100% control over, but most people are not taking advantage of it. I don't know. It blows me away that I can go online, I can figure out anything I want about a hot tub, and I can know how many jets and what pressure, and I'm not buying a hot tub or whatever, and all that kind of stuff. But when I actually send an email out, that'll determine whether I actually want to buy that or not. It blows me away in today's world.
And I think to echo on what Barry was saying, not only do you know everything about the product and the car you're going to buy or the hot tub, but you also know how much it's going to cost. And most websites now, the OEM websites and the dealership websites, have a payment calculator. So when dealerships don't trust their salespeople who they're paying to give basic financial information, it just grinds the whole process to a halt. And then you start to think as a customer, well, they don't trust this guy. Why should I trust this guy? And why do I have to ask 3 people for a price for something? And why are you dodging that question? It's important to me. Ultimately, I think you have to care, but you have to trust your people. And I think if you can train your people on caring and giving a great experience, let the pricing thing handle itself. But I think dealers are focusing on the wrong part of the process.
Yeah, that's a very good point. And like we say, they're concentrating on the wrong point of the process, because, as we just said, it's sort of like pouring liquid into a cup. And if you're pouring 10 times the amount of the volume of the cup, you're still only going to be able to get 10% or the 100% of the volume of the cup, not 1,000%. Anybody else want to address that? Ooh, the silence is golden.
I was just going to comment, like, honestly, to what Troy has brought up a couple of times. That hospitality industry is absolutely the one that everybody in the automotive industry should be looking at, because if I want to book a hotel room for this summer vacation, I go online, I look at the room, I pick the room, I book it. I don't go through, like, I might look at 3 or 4 hotels, or I might look at this, or I might look at that, which I'm going to do anyway. But I don't have a bunch of grief and a bunch of top-heavy processes that I have to go through to book a hotel room. I know what I'm getting. I know where the desk will be. I know what the bed will look like. I know what the curtains look like. Book it.
Well, you know what's funny though? One thing I do have to say, and a lot of this is not the fault of the hospitality industry, but through the pandemic, dealers have not suffered, hospitality industry has suffered. And it just seems that so often the car industry or the dealers anyways, come out of a lot of these things smelling like roses because, again, in this particular case, people have stopped taking transit, people are that, they're looking at buying cars, and all of a sudden now you can't get the car you want because there's a chip problem. It reminds me of the old days of Honda and Toyota. Somebody come in and say, do you have a silver one? No. Do you have a black one? No. What do you have? I have a green one. Great. Can I get a discount? No. Okay, I'll take it. And that creates bad processes. Ian. You're on
yeah,
mute.
I mean, I think at the end of the day, what we have to learn in the car business is that what's going to make the difference moving forward is how we treat people, especially with, Vroom and Carvana and Clutch and Kirby and others, really changing the channel. And inventory is always going to be an issue, whether it be new or used, and maybe more so in the next 18 to 24 months. But really what creates that sale, that great experience, CSI, and service, and I know we've had shows on service retention over the years, is basically a great experience. And I don't know if you're familiar, but Porsche Global just made a decision to create a custom experience, whether it be an OEM website or the dealer website that's consistent. The reason being, they could no longer rely on the dealerships to make that experience the same. So they basically mandated it, much like Genesis has done. So I think as a dealership, you need to create that better experience, be it the lead, the website, both. And that will drive not only, more sales, but also more after sales. And coincidentally, we have a show coming up May 25th on 40% in the service drive. Why is that okay? And I think a lot of it goes back to the initial sale. If the initial sale was bad, what's the service retention going to be?
Well, no, it's 1,000%, Ian, because if you haven't done a good job with the customer, you are not going to do a good job of handing the customer to the service department, and that is a breakdown in the dealership. That is not we didn't do good in sales, but we rock service. It's like, no, we don't do a good job anywhere, or we do a good job everywhere. One of the two, in my opinion.
My very favorite service retention story or handoff story, Jeff, is the Barnes one. I'll save it for next week, but that poker run, man, I tell that story every week and have for 5 years. It is the best sales to service handoff process I have ever come across in my life. Full stop.
Yeah, thank you. Like, you know what? It's a brilliant thing. And of those of you who really don't understand what that is, at Barnes, when somebody buys a bike, they go to F&I 1. And F&I 1 is when they meet the finance manager and they talk to them, regardless, of course, paying cash, finance, whatever it may be. And they talk to them. And as they're prepping everything for them, they call the salesman. And they walk outside, they walk into the middle of the showroom, they have the customer ring the bell, which lots of dealers have. They ring the bell and the whole place erupts in cheering. And then they take them over to the motor clothes department and they get a tour of the dealership with individuals from those departments. They go through motor clothes, they go into service where they explain their service, they give them a trickle charger. They go back into parts where the parts guys go over, parts ladies go over the different accessories and parts. And by the time they get back into the F&I for F&I 2, which hopefully they've been approved for finance and delivery, they've added $3,000 to their deal. And I've told numerous car dealers about that. And most of the time they go, oh, and it is good.
Well, Jeff, and I think the biggest takeaway from me, the biggest takeaway from me wasn't so much the adding money to the deal, which of course it did, but what it did was I had my first service appointment booked. I knew who my service advisor was, and I had his business card. I had the parts guy's business card and a parts catalog, and I had the general manager's business card. So, and then the salesperson. So by the time I left the dealership, I had my trickle charger, my stuff, my jacket, my helmet, but I also had 5 business cards that I could call on those people anytime I had a problem. And that was huge for me.
No, and thank you. That is very true, because how many times does somebody buy a car, a bike, a boat, and they don't even know where to go to service? They don't know what entrance to go into, and they don't know anybody. And here they've met everybody by the time they get they finish their first visit to the dealership on a purchase. And so with that, anybody have any final comments? Nope. Thank you all so much for joining us. We can't tell you how much we appreciate taking your time for our guests today. Your information you provided was invaluable. It was tremendous, and we appreciate everything you say. Ian, do you want to close off the show?
Yeah, have a great week. Thanks very much, and stay tuned for our 40% show next week. Bye for now.
Bye-bye. Thank you.